Welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. You figured that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. And I don't have a good way to start the show today. I've actually asked Amadeo to be here because Amadeo might have to fill in here in a little bit to get the show going because I am distraught. I am very upset and been crying a little bit. I've been crying really for the last couple of days. I'm not crying for me. I'm crying for every NBA team that's going to come across VJ Edgecombe, Tyrese Maxey, Quentin Grimes, eventually Jerry McCain, and arguably one of the best backcourts in the NBA. I told you all earlier this week, VJ Edgecombe, right on the precipice of being a star. I said 3 years to be an all-star. Hot damn, he might be in contention for all-NBA third team by the time the season's over. What a performance. And as if VJ Edgecombe weren't impressive enough, Tyrese Maxey drops 40 points, the most ever, for a Sixer in the first game of the season. We had multiple records set. VJ Edgecombe scores the most points in a debut since Wilt effing Chamberlain. Tyrese Maxey drops the most points ever for a Sixer in a season opener. And you people expect me to come on here today and to be calm, to be cool, to be collected? Nay, nay. We are here because the Sixers finally did something good. They did. Daryl Morey still sucks, but he did something good. He did. VJ Edgecombe appears as of right now to be one hell of a draft pick. An absolute bona fide stud. I mean, I know it's just one game, but VJ Edgecombe already has as many made three-pointers in his one game in the NBA as Ben Simmons has had in his entire NBA career, and that may come as a surprise to you, but it is true. The odd thing about it is VJ Edgecombe hit 5 threes in one game. Ben Simmons hit 5 threes so far in his NBA career, which may be over. I honestly was a little bit surprised. On one hand, I was like, wow, Edgecombe really matched that number in one game. And then I thought about it and I went, 5. I don't remember Ben Simmons having 5 3-pointers. I don't even remember having 5 3-point attempts. But it is true. So VJ Edgecombe looks like a stud. Tyrese Maxey looks like a stud. Quentin Grimes, perfectly fine. I am excited for when Jared McCain comes back. The Sixers went up to Boston. They shipped up to Boston, and they exercised some demons. Now, I said on the show earlier this week that you would have to take any win with a little bit of a grain of salt, right? Because we have to be fair here at the Russ Joy Show, and we are always fair on this here program. Boston is without Jason Tatum, but the Sixers are without Paul George. And if you, turned away from the game for a little bit at any given point, you would also think that the Sixers were without Joel Embiid, who was practically non-existent on the night and really was in no way, shape, or form impactful on this game. Which, on one hand, you say, hey, that's great. The backcourt can actually carry. It's not just Tyrese Maxey now. VJ Edgecombe looks like a bona fide stud, a killer, cold-blooded, hit two huge free throws late in that game. And then, yes, he did miss the final 2 free throw attempts. And yes, that could have led to opening the door to Boston to win the game on a shot from anywhere on the court. Yes, that is true. We will acknowledge that. But VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey together is arguably the best backcourt the Sixers have had in I don't know how long. I mean, if this even remotely projects out the same way that Tyrese Maxey continues to take a step, well, then he's very well into stardom, and we knew that already. If VJ Edgecombe, I don't expect him to be a 34-point-per-game player, but if VJ Edgecombe can get you like 22, 24 a game and take some of that additional pressure off of Maxey, incredible. You know, Maxey's a really great player for this team. Maxey is a tremendous finisher at the rim. Maxey has worked on his three-point game. I'm not positive that Tyrese Maxey is a late-game, stone-cold, cold-blooded killer. VJ Edgecombe has that look to him. And it's interesting to watch as Twitter kind of started having the conversation, but you see similarities to Jimmy Butler. You see similarities in the game to Anthony Edwards. I saw some people saying, hey, is there like a little bit of Victor Oladipo to his game? Is there a little bit of Dwayne Wade to his game? And I think all of those are probably fitting and fair. But man, Edgecombe looks so real, And in the first game, and by the way, Boston not having Jason Tatum, true. Al Horford being gone, true. That's still a very talented Celtics team that I still think, even without Tatum, is a playoff team. And if Tatum somehow comes back, either before the end of the calendar year 2025 or early in 2026, they could very well be in contention for a top 5 spot in the conference. They're a very talented team. They happen to be missing their best player, but they are still a very good team, and they're going to win a lot of games. But man, you have to feel good about the Sixers. You do. I mentioned the other day, I thought that Yabusele moving on was going to hurt this team. I still think that ultimately it could. But Barlow, total unsung hero. Fantastic. Fantastic against the Celtics. Even if you are a Sixers denier, even if you are a Sixers hater, even if you're somebody who sits back and says, I will believe this when I see it over an extended period of time, it is hard to walk away from Wednesday night's game and feel anything but positive. I mean, okay, let's zoom out for a second. Kelly Oubre, who was once relied on as a reliable scorer on this team, had 10 points. That was it. Dominic Barlow had 13 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Great job by him. Joel Embiid finished the night with 4 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. In 20 minutes, he was going to be load managed. I have some concerns there. We'll get there in a second. They got 10 points off the bench from Quentin Grimes. Jabari Walker added 6 points of his own. But this was a 74-point combined effort from Edgecombe and Maxey that got the job done. And I will point out that they did it relatively efficiently. But if we talk about Joel Embiid for a second, I'm not feeling so great after Wednesday. You know, the preseason finale, we all looked at it and said, holy shit, Joel Embiid, is he back? I even wondered aloud on Wednesday's show, could Joel Embiid be on an ultimate revenge tour? Like, if Joel Embiid looks like the Joel Embiid in the preseason finale and plays 60-plus games this season, he's going to have a point to prove. He did not prove a point on Wednesday night. He looked out of it. He didn't look comfortable in his own skin. It was not a good performance for Joel Embiid. I don't know what the hell happened between the preseason finale and the season opener. You can only hope that this isn't a showing that for some reason Embiid's body reacted poorly to the preseason finale. Because remember, Daryl Morey famously said they are going to be basing when Joel plays off of how his body feels. His body's going to tell them the story. If that is his body telling the story, it's a bad story. It's actually kind of like a Goosebumps book. Remember Goosebumps when you were in elementary school? Everybody loved Goosebumps. And if you were a 90s kid, you also had Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon. And sometimes you get a little bit scared, a little bit. And you look back on it and you go, should I have really been that afraid? But in the moment, you were petrified. The Joel Embiid of it all right now feels very, very scary. Now, years from now, will we look back on it and say, there was no reason to be that scared? I don't know. I don't want to put too much into the Embiid of it all from Wednesday night, but if that's the Embiid you're going to get more often than not, then it's bad, very bad on the Joel Embiid front. The good news, of course, is that not a lot of teams have dominant centers the way that Embiid has largely been a dominant force on both ends of the court, and Joel Embiid has also been a guy that they've pretty much run the offense through whenever he's been healthy. Giving some time to this backcourt to develop and work together and hopefully rack up some wins could end up being a net positive. Oh, and by the way, if you play this one out a little bit, Paul George, if he's even moderately healthy, all of a sudden this is an even more dangerous team. Can you theoretically get through a season where Joel Embiid isn't 80% of MVP level Joel Embiid and still win a lot of games? You could. It's going to really put a lot of emphasis and a lot of focus and pressure on the guards. But if Paul George is even like remotely useful, this team could still win a lot of games in a depleted Eastern Conference. For them to reach the pinnacle of what they want and need to be, Embiid's going to have to be better than he was on Wednesday night. I'm just a little bit concerned. Like, did his body just not bounce back well from the preseason finale? Like, what was it exactly that led to him looking so uncomfortable on Wednesday night? I'm going to go out to the comments here. We have a little bit more to talk about the Sixers. The Flyers dropped a game to the Senators. We'll talk about that and Dan Vladar. Dave Dombrowski backtracked on his comments about Bryce Harper. Oh, and there's just a massively consequential scandal that has rocked the NBA. And it's not Kawhi in aspiration. We're going to get to all of that. And video guy Amadeo's here. We'll be bringing him on in a second as well. Now, I do want to go out to the comments here really quick. Chris Freed says, getting a haircut at Luigi's Place Barbershop while listening to the Russ Joy Show. Well, thank you, Chris. I hope Luigi does a nice job on your hair. Hopefully, he's a good Luigi, like the one who wears green, not the other Luigi who, not that one. Although some people say that was good. I would say that's not good, but some people are saying. Chris also says, hey, Russ, have you ever watched the movie The Last Boy Scout with Bruce Willis? Do you remember the opening scene where sports gambling is? It is only a matter of time before that scene happens. I have not seen The Last Boy Scout. I'm sorry. Ford is here. Says VJ is legit. Also says that Embiid is cooked. VJ has a good mid-range jumper, has handle, gets to the hole, is a good dude, great draft pick. There's a missing element here. VJ Edgecombe apparently worked his ass off in the offseason since being drafted on that three-point shot. And again, 5 3-pointers in his first game in the NBA on the road in a hostile environment playing at TD Garden in Boston. He looked legit. He did. That 3-point shooting is something that he did not have in his arsenal coming into the league. So good on him for working on it. Almost makes you wish that certain Ben Simmons of it all had done the same thing. Or maybe shot with the correct hand. Who knows? Amadeo's already trolling me for a trope, in fairness. Bondarenko's here, says, good afternoon, all. Tough game for the Flyers last night, but thank God for Vladar keeping them in the game. We're going to get there in a little bit. Joe Fisher says, Embiid been away from the game. He needs to get back in game shape. It seems like give him a month and we'll see where he is. I think that's what's so frustrating, though, is that, he looked fine in the preseason finale. And I get that the intensity isn't the same, but, he looked okay there physically. And then to come out in the regular season opener and look like he did, not ideal. Ray Supper over on YouTube says, I'll continue to believe the Sixers and the NBA are a big scam. Justice Department will be investigating. We'll get there in a little bit as well. Okay. I'm going to bring video guy Amadeo on. Amadeo, how are you?
Good. How are you? I'm sitting in a very awkward position. My cat's on my lap currently.
I saw the cat on the table before I brought you on.
Yeah, she's right here. She's very comfy right now.
Oh, you can kind of see through the okay.
Yeah, there she is.
Hello, cat. Ammo 23 says he knows you.
Hi, Dad.
We've established, yeah. Papa, papi, papa. I've made it, Papa. I have made it on the show. Amadeo, first of all, did you watch the Sixers opening?
Oh yes, I actually tell you this. I stood up in front of the television for the final 2 minutes. I can't tell you the last time I did that for a Sixers game. 100% not last year because that was all pain. Mm-hmm. But that was very fun to witness. Max, it feels like we're not talking about Maxey enough either. Just a casual 40 points.
Yeah.
But VJ Edgecombe. Oh, see ya.
There goes Cat. Bye, Cat.
See ya. But VJ, man, that was special. That stud, and I can't wait to see McCain back, man.
I'm not saying that I'm responsible for saying stud, but I might be responsible for saying stud.
And you might.
He is a bona fide all caps stud.
You might like this too, because I got this in the mail today.
Whoa! Is that a jersey or a jersey?
Jersey.
Yeah, I was gonna say. See, I think that jerseys are kind of if you're getting a hockey jersey, if you're getting a football jersey, even a baseball jersey, for the most part, they look good on just about everybody, right? Within reason, as long as your size is remotely close. If you're a 3XL dude and you're trying to squeeze into a medium, it's not great. Not great. A lot of seams tearing. But basketball jerseys don't look good on anyone. Basketball jerseys look good on the dudes who look like they should be playing on the court, and that's about it.
I would have gotten one if it wasn't for, because if you look at the Sixers shop, and plus it's also ran by Fanatics, none of them are stitched. It's either
really? They're just pressed on?
It's screen printed or it's heat pressed. The most expensive one is heat pressed. The least expensive one is screen printed. I'm I
don't like that.
No.
Yeah, I don't like that. Here's the thing about Maxey's game. If we go back to Tyrese. So I sound like Kate Scott now saying first names. Tyrese! Ah! So Edgecombe had 5 threes in the game. He had 13 3-point attempts, which makes you go, So half of his shots came from downtown, but he hit 5 of them. And again, you feel pretty good about it, given that he didn't have a 3-point game coming into the draft. Cool. Maxey was incredibly efficient. 7 of 9 from downtown. 13 of 24 overall on the night. 40 points. Wild. Like absolutely wild stuff. And even if you go back to the idea, and I think Nick Nurse kind of talked about it in the offseason, they don't want to have Tyrese Maxey kind of cornered in or pigeonholed into being the traditional point guard. Like he believes that Edgecombe, as he works on his handle, is going to be able to be a guy that can handle some ball handling responsibilities. And I know that I keep coming back to like the ifs and the hopes and the will it come to fruition, but like Paul George, for a guy his size, has great handle, has ball handling ability. Paul George, in theory, could be a guy as you end a quarter, maybe not the game, but as you're ending a quarter, you don't actually feel bad about Paul George having the ball in his hands in an ISO. You don't feel bad about it at all because he's not just going to be able to pop a little jumper right before the buzzer, but he's got playmaking ability as well. He can also slash. He can get to the rim. He can pop a 3 from time to time. You start to think about how dangerous this team can actually look if they are to get a Paul George back relatively healthy. And then, of course, Embiid of it all. I don't know. There's part of me that doesn't want to fall into the trope, but I think it's going to happen no matter what. You almost wonder, can Edgecombe and Maxey hit the same level if the offense has to run through Embiid? Or does Nick Nurse say, I'm more likely going to be able to bank on Maxey and Edgecombe playing night in and night out, so the offense has to run through them. And Joel is like a luxury to have. Like, where do you think they're at?
I think it's more of the latter because and granted, they're playing a banged up Celtics team. They don't have Jason Tatum, but they're still a strong team nonetheless. What you saw from Maxey was basically the driver of the entire offense. Lights out from 3, driving to the rim. His playmaking was there. VJ we didn't expect him to be that good on day one, but also the one dunk. He had the one dunk in the first quarter that was just completely insane. And was it the alley-oop from Oubre, I believe it was, where he was basically completely under the basket, almost out of bounds.
It looked like he was past the rim and still managed to pull himself all the way back.
Yeah. So those two were the complete driving forces of the offense with the other complementary pieces around them. And granted, Embiid was not good. But I do think it works to the benefit of Embiid if you have Maxey and Edgecombe as the driving force of the offense, to where not everything has to revolve around Embiid. Because how many years have we talked about when Joel Embiid steps off the court, everything falls apart for the Sixers? Other team goes on a major run. They can't score. They can't stop the bleeding. Last night, it really didn't feel like that. It looked like there was a little bit of sustainability, even when Joel Embiid was in his limited minutes. And granted, I don't know. We're not going to know what version of Embiid we're going to get every single night. That's just, I think, where his body is at this point. You're going to get either a broken down Embiid. You could probably get maybe flashes of what he can be and what his true talent is. I think it works to his benefit to where he doesn't have to be the main face of the offense. He doesn't have to be the driving force of the offense anymore just because of where his body is, because Maxey improves every year, and it looks like he's taking another step. Granted, it's only one game, but it's a step in the right direction. If Edgecombe plays the way that he can, what he did in game 1, granted, he's going to have his ebbs and flows. You add McCain back to the offense, and if he can continue where he left off before he got injured last year, that's a very dangerous thing for your offense, to where you don't have to rely on Embiid as much, and maybe that takes pressure off of Embiid.
You have to hope so. I think if you can get to a point where Embiid is being expected to get like 15 a game, maybe 20 a game, at least to start, like get to that point the first month and a half into the season. And then as he kind of finds his legs, then maybe he does start to pick up a lot more of the scoring load like you would typically expect. there's so much overreacting you can do. And like, of course, like I started the show and I'm yelling and I'm screaming and I'm jumping up and down practically right about how good Edgecombe looked, how good Maxey looked. But you have to be fair. It's one game. Like, let's see what this looks like over the next few weeks. Like, let's see, does VJ Edgecombe continue to play at an incredibly high level that's like so far beyond a rookie that you go, this guy looks like a 27-year-old playing in this league, right? If that's where things go, then you start to feel better. Like, they've got the Hornets this weekend. That should not be much of a game. And that's at home. That's a home opener, right? That's on Saturday night. You got the Flyers in the afternoon, right? Matinee. And then you got Sixers at home at night. The Magic will represent a really tough test. Now, the good thing for the Sixers is that game on Monday happens in Philadelphia at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. Then you're on the road against the Wizards. Total joke. Then you have the NBA Cup. Boston comes back to town looking for revenge. Then you're at Brooklyn. Should be pretty straightforward. Bulls on the road. Should be straightforward. November 5th is the game everybody should probably have circled. That's Cleveland. That is the team that ended up with the best record in the Eastern Conference. That is a team that you would fully expect to be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference this year. They have some cupcake games in the middle to kind of get Joel Embiid acclimated, to almost give him that ramp up that you're supposed to have in the preseason. If he doesn't look great coming out of, like, let's say November 2nd against the Nets, November 4th against the Bulls, well, that game against the Cavs on the 5th is going to be kind of a nightmare. I mean, they have a very strong backcourt. You have a very strong backcourt in theory. Your differentiator in that kind of matchup should be Joel Embiid, whatever he's going to look like at whatever level. So we will see. Feeling a little bit positive about these Sixers.
I didn't realize they played Boston 3 times in the first month and a half. That is crazy.
It's crazy. It is absolutely bananagrams. It makes no sense. There are times like when you look at schedules and you go like, did somebody take time off? Like, did somebody just like not do their job for a little bit? Like what happened when the schedule was made?
That's how I feel about the Flyers schedule in the first 3 months with all the home games.
Yeah, so that's actually, what a great transition. Let's get to the Flyers, because last night, Tyson Forster scores a goal about 30 seconds into the game on the road against Claude Giroux and the Ottawa Senators. And you go, yo, Dan Vladar's back in net. Darth Vladar, shirts available now at shop.stonethegoalie.com. And you say to yourself, man, what a great start on the road, continuing that momentum coming off a 5-2 win against the Kraken. And you go, yo, could they make it 3 straight wins? Vladar in net, looking great. Where do we go from here? They failed to score for the remaining 59 minutes and 30 seconds or so. I mean, they had a few opportunities, but like the power play didn't look particularly good. All of the positivity that I came out of feeling against the Kraken, where you go, yo, man advantage, delayed penalties. The power play itself looked a lot better. Puck movement looked a lot better at home against Seattle on Monday. Thursday night's game almost looked like the Rocky Thompson horror show on the power play. Like the puck was not moving. The offense looks stagnant. And then Rick Tocchet comes out post-game and essentially says, look, we got to be willing to play in the middle of the ice. We got to be willing to have an interior game. We were settling too much for being on the outside. There are a lot of guys to be disappointed with. But interestingly enough, the one guy that you don't walk away feeling disappointed in, once again, is Dan Vladar, who once again holds the opposition to a mere 2 goals, which I don't mean to do this every show, but we probably will for now. He's now got the 3rd highest, or the 3rd lowest, I guess, 3rd best goals against average in the entire NHL at 1.81 goals allowed per game. 3rd in the league. He is now tied for the 4th highest save percentage at .932. I get it. You're not going to win every game. I understand that. This team will be out-talented on some nights. They should not be outworked on any night, right? Talent beats hard work hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. The Flyers should still be able to jump on teams that are on paper better teams, because it's a combination of a lot of things. It could be travel, could be if a team's been on the road for a while, it could be a team is rusty, and certainly it could be that a team looks at the Flyers and they say, what a joke. Easy game, cupcake game. They don't take it as seriously, and you can jump on them early. I don't look at Ottawa as like some particularly talented or skilled team. I don't look at them as being a cup contender. I don't look at them as even being like a top half of the Eastern Conference team. It's a Claude Giroux team after all. They're not going to be particularly good, but you can't sleep on them. You can't score 30 seconds in and then say, all right, we're good. We're good. We're happy. What did you see?
When I look at the power play, and specifically from and this is actually not just specifically from last night. This is just the first so many games that I've seen. They don't have a defenseman that shoots from the point. The defenseman refused to, and I'm telling the defenseman every time you got it on the point, you got to shoot the puck. Yeah. Drysdale doesn't shoot the puck whenever Sanheim or York that's on the second unit, whenever they mix and match there, none of those guys shoot it from the point. Actually, York was the only one that shot it from the point, and those resulted in the goal against Seattle, which is the tip in from Forrester and Cates. But basically what Tocchet said, they try to keep everything to the outside. They really don't try to go inside to the slot or anything like that. And every time they do elect to shoot, it's either deflected, it's blocked, puck never goes through. And they also just never win the faceoff on the power play. Every time, lose the faceoff, puck out of the zone, and then it's the ugly transition into the offensive zone, which they've struggled at for years. It's crazy. Yeah. And then just for the things that I did take positively from last night is Michkov obviously getting the chances that he did get. Breakaway coming out of the penalty box. The point-blank chance that he had in the slot in that second period off of the pass. I believe it was from Zegras, or it was actually from Drysdale that made a good play on that, actually. And I'm not sure if a defenseman got a stick on there. I'm not sure if Michkov just completely missed the net. It was a weird thing to where it's just like, wow, he just completely missed the net. But I'm like, okay, it is a good thing that he's getting those chances, because if he continues to get those chances night in and night out, he's eventually going to cash in on those. But it's also like, come on, man, I need you to score, man. I need you to cash in when you do get those chances. And I do sense that there is, because me and you obviously we're on Twitter too much, and Flyers fans obviously really frustrated with Michkov right now that he's not scoring, that he's not cashing in. And everyone likes to point out, oh, look at these other players around the league. Look at these young guys around the league. All these young guys are scoring. Michkov's not scoring. Come on. Can't be traditional Flyers here. Can someone just break out? And I could understand the frustration on that standpoint.
I think that there's just a part of me that has not put my neck out on the line about this being a playoff team that then gets like frustrated anytime this team underwhelms. But there is a part of me that is frustrated because he put his neck out on the line and saying that this is going to be a playoff team, and then the team underwhelms. I mean, like it is very frustrating when you watch this team and you say, like, look, on aggregate, the talent might not be there. Even if you line players up, player for player, against the opposition, you say the other team is more talented. I don't think that Ottawa team is particularly good. And so, like, I don't look at that Ottawa team without Tkachuk and say, oh, yeah, this is a significantly better team. Now, if you have Tkachuk, well, then sure, it's a different conversation, right? But, like, that Ottawa team isn't that good. Not being able to score more than one goal is totally unacceptable. I don't give a shit if you are a team that's coming off of being one of the worst in the NHL, a lottery team a season ago. I don't care. One goal is unacceptable, and I get it. There are even great teams in this league that get held to one goal. There are great teams that get shut out. There are teams that get held to 2 goals or less in a 3-game stretch. I get it. But it's so frustrating. It doesn't make it any less frustrating. But Vladar, can we just have a moment? Just take a very quick second. Dan Vladar continues to be the revelation of the season so far. And again, I totally understand. It is incredibly early. This could all look very stupid a month from now, 2 weeks from now, if Vladar starts getting his ass handed to him. But so far, he has been about as good as you could hope any goalie would be. I mean, again, you're looking at it and you go, top 3 in goals against. Top 4 in save percentage. He's been incredible. The problem, I guess, is going to be if you don't get that exceptional goaltending night in and night out, and then you're getting held to low goal totals, then you're going to start losing games, and it's going to happen more often than not. We'll see how they look. I mean, I expect that Sam Erson's going to be in net on Saturday against the Islanders, and then you're going to go back to Vladar against the Pens on Tuesday, is my guess, right? Next week's going to be really interesting because you go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So, like, Erson is going to get some starts. Again, I think he'll start against the Islanders, go back to Vladar. I wouldn't be surprised if they flip-flop back to Ersson against the Preds and then play Vladar in an in-conference game against the Maple Leafs that Saturday. And then on the second half of the back-to-back, maybe you go back to Ersson. Perhaps you go, I can't imagine they're going to go 3 straight to Vladar. Pens on Tuesday, Predators Thursday, Maple Leafs Saturday. Maybe. It depends on how bad Ersson looks. If he goes in and gets his ass handed to him on Saturday against the Isles, well, then you have a real conundrum on your hand. Ersson's given up 4 goals a game. That can't happen. Can't happen. So if it happens again against the Islanders, I'm not saying that you start like pressing the emergency button and you go, oh, well, Alexei Kolosov's having himself a nice time down in the AHL. Oh, Carson Bjarnes is having a nice time. Not saying that you're going to make a personnel change, but Ersson has to be better than 4 goals a game. Has to be. Inexcusable if he's not.
I think what was really intriguing from Vladar's game last night is that what have we seen the pattern from the Flyers in the first so many games of the season? They don't allow many shots per game against the opponent. Last night they allowed, I think for the first time, 30-plus shots of the game, and Vladar was locked in. I think that bodes some real positivity for Vladar the rest of the season. It really just the question mark is when he eventually gets to that extension of games that he's never played before. What is the body going to give up on him, or is he just going to be locked in like that? So I do find real positive in that. But yeah, Ersson. If Ersson was playing last night, they probably lose like 5-1 with the way they were playing. And I think
if Ersson's in there, who the hell knows? Like a lot of times I joke up at the Press Row Show setup. I'll be like, if Ersson were in there, four additional goals to the opposition. Thank God you have Dan Vladar in there. Now, am I a little bit of a fraud for kind of turning my back on Ersson? Maybe a little bit. I mean, I think in our own ways, we're all kind of frauds at different points in our lives. I did think that Ersson was going to be a much better goalie than he's turned out to be, at least so far. I hope he can get his head back on straight. Because, ultimately, Vladar can play really, really well. He can even regress to being like a league average or slightly above league average goaltender. But if that's all he ends up being, and then the guy who comes in and fills in the other games is dog doo-doo, the Flyers have no upside. So you got to hope, if you're the Flyers, Ersson gets his head on straight. Vladar continues to play strongly. Maybe not as strongly, but play strongly. I'm going to really quick go out to JH here. He says, no alerts today, but I made it. Do me a favor, because this happens sometimes. The YouTube. Why does the YouTube do this? If you haven't already hit the little bell to get notified whenever the videos go live, you should do that. And JH, you might have already done that. But if you haven't, make sure you ring the bell to get notified whenever the show goes live. I actually get, it's pretty funny. On the analytics side of YouTube, they give you all kinds of data points about like who's watching your stuff, how long do people stay on the shows, how long do they watch for. And there's like a whole thing about the audience, not the demographics of the audience, but like the audience itself of like where they come from, the audience breakdown of like subscriber versus non-subscriber and all that kind of fun stuff. And like, it is actually kind of wild to me to dive into some of those numbers and see, you can actually see how many, like the percentage of viewers on the channel that have hit to subscribe to everything, or the percentage of viewers who have the notifications turned on. It's insane. I guess what I'm trying to get to is a lot of you wonderful people who are here quite often, you don't ring the bell. So how will you know if the show goes live? I don't know.
Or maybe YouTube just being stupid.
Whoa, don't say that. YouTube likes to flag stuff. Spotify took down my last episode of this show because they claimed there was a song at like a certain timestamp. And it was like, you've been removed from the US, Canada, Japan, and like 3 other countries. I'm like, there is no music in the show. And so then I went back and I listened to it. I had to pull it up on Apple Podcasts, and there was no music. And so I filed an appeal. And I said, there is literally no music at that timestamp. Nary a sound being played. Please advise.
Or YouTube copyright striking Snow the Goalie because of the television in the background.
TV in the background showing an ESPN program. We very clearly aren't trying to monetize an ESPN program that's muted off in the side in the corner. Ridiculous. Anyway, we're just trying to get through all of it, okay? Ford says, I was subscribed to all and was not getting notifications. I had to go back in and redo it. Very weird. Thank you for the heads up there, Ford. So strange.
It's crazy.
So strange.
Crazy.
K-Dub says, can't do notifications. Hate having my phone flooded with K-Dub. Then just turn off all the other notifications. The Russ Joy Show is all you need in your life. And maybe Snow the Goalie. Maybe Phightin Words. Maybe a little TTP Sports over there with Amadeo. I'm just saying, they're not there. Okay. There was one other team that made some headlines this week. So Sixers made good headlines. Flyers had some up and down headlines. But Temu.com, Mr. Rogers is back at it again. Back at it again with the white fans. Dave Dombrowski was over on Foul Territory, which I think I may have referenced at some point on the show. I couldn't remember the name of the show. But Dombrowski has backtracked on his comments about Bryce Harper and has essentially complained that he was taken out of context. His comments were misinterpreted because, you know, if there's one thing that you can guarantee in this life, it's that an executive who finally does tell you the truth, he'll backtrack. Pretty inevitably, he will backtrack. So I want to go out to Dave Dombrowski, who can't believe the comment about Bryce Harper not having an elite season, the kind of life that's taken on. Let's go out to Dave. Dave, how we doing out there, baby cakes? What's up with you?
Well, and it's, of course, got a life of its own. I said so many things in a 1 hour press conference, this is the one thing that gets out there. First of all, I mean, to me, Bryce Harper is one of the best players in the game of baseball. And when I say he didn't have, they asked me, what type of year did you think he had? And I said,
that is true. They did ask, what kind of year did he have? And he said it wasn't an elite year. It was a good year, but not an elite year. And then he said, can he get back to that elite level? I don't know.
He had a very good year. I don't think he had an elite year. And when I say that, when I think of Bryce Harper, it's a compliment because...
Oh, that's so sweet. He didn't have an elite year. He had a good year. It's a compliment because I believe that Bryce can be an elite player in this league again. Okay.
The reality is there are, I don't know, 8, 10 players in the game of baseball every year. When they're not, let's say, in the MVP consideration, for whatever reason, sometimes it can be an injury factor.
Well, there were injuries this year with Bryce Harper. That is true.
Sometimes they just have a bad year, but whatever, it's not an elite year for them. So the reality is that he's a great player. He's a future Hall of Famer. This thing's got a life of its own. Now I've been reading that, the Phillies may trade Bryce Harper. That
let's let him finish.
Couldn't be further from the truth. We love him. I think he's a great player. He's a very important part of our team.
Well, that's sweet. So there's more. And it also kind of sounds exactly like that. It sounds almost like every press conference or every kind of media appearance Dave Dombrowski's ever had. The only time in my life that I felt like he is being fully honest and transparent was the thing that he's now backtracking on. Bryce Harper didn't have an elite year. But he also, on his own accord, said, can he get back to that elite level? I don't know. Or I'm not sure. He's the one who, while specifying it was a good season, not a great season, opined aloud, can he get back to that elite level? I don't know. I'm not sure. Nobody, to my recollection, said, hey, Dave, do you think Bryce Harper sucks? Hey, Dave, do you think Bryce Harper can't be elite again? I don't remember anybody asking that. Dave Dombrowski on his own said, can I get back to that elite level? I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll find out. Wow. It really does sound like Owen Wilson. Wow. Wow. But like, am I crazy? Like, backtracking on it to me is like disingenuous. He was honest and he was right. Bryce Harper did have a good, not elite year. We can also see he had a shitty playoff run. Another one. Not the first time Bryce Harper hasn't shown up in the postseason for the Phillies. Historical numbers would otherwise indicate he's been a very good postseason player. I don't care about 3 years ago. I don't care about 4 years ago. I care about how he played this year. I care about how he performed last season. I really care about this year, where he was pretty much a no-show, along with the rest of the top of the lineup. That's what I care about. I don't care about your historical numbers. I care about you actually performing now. If Dombrowski really wanted to, he could have said Bryce Harper was deeply disappointing in the playoffs. We needed somebody at the top of the order to like get the job done. And when Trey couldn't and when Kyle couldn't, we would certainly hope that Bryce would be able to be the one to lead the way. And instead, Nick Castellanos, of all people, who they're actively trying to get rid of, was the one who delivered actual clutch hits. What are we doing here? Am I crazy? Am I nuts?
I mean, in the literal sense or the figurative sense?
Well, literally, I am not nuts. I am not comprised of peanut or hazelnut or almonds or walnuts or Brazilian nuts. So literally, I'm not. But like, am I crazy?
Maybe. I feel like medically, maybe you could be crazy, but no, on this case, no, Dave. Just everything is just bullshit. He's just spewing bullshit out of his mouth. It kind of reminds me, and this is just going completely off the base. What was it? Like a South Park episode where I think it was Stan. Every music that he listens to just sounds like shit, and that's basically what Dave Dombrowski. Every time
so
I
when
hear
Dave
him,
Dombrowski talks, you just hear.
Yes.
So like, let me just make sure that I get this right for all the fine folks who are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and X, and we can also do this for the fine folks who listen after the fact in the podcast. I just want to be clear. So what you experience whenever Dave Dombrowski talks is this, right? You get this.
Yeah.
He might want to change. He might need to change those tidy whities at that point because sound like that one had a little extra something at the end of it.
Or he's Charlie Brown's teacher. He could also be a Charlie Brown teacher.
Landro says, to be fair, I don't need Dave to tell me about Bryce in the playoffs. I saw it for myself. That is correct. Correct. Where was here we go. Ford says, people misinterpreted. Come on, dude. We heard with our ears and our brains. It's not misinterpreting. No, it's not. No one misinterpreted it. Dombrowski put those comments out himself on his own accord. He doesn't like the reaction, probably because somebody within the organization has probably heard from somebody in the Bryce Harper camp that like, that was not cool. Remember, when we talked about it on the show, I said, the only reason you come out and say that is because you're either trying to motivate the player, you're just being unbelievably honest without realizing how it's going to go over, or you're trying to potentially provoke the player into saying, you know what, I actually might be open to going somewhere else. If you're trying to clear that contract and you think Bryce Harper can't be a lead again. But I said, if you do that, if you piss off Bryce Harper and he wants to leave, good luck getting free agents because you are going to tarnish your reputation as an organization. So like that's beyond, you better hope you're developing or something. Like it's not great. This to me is a problem. This is a complaint based on the reaction to the comments and not from the fans. Cause I think that the fans on the whole were kind of like, oh, Dave Dombrowski telling the truth. Very interesting. Interesting how he did that. I think this is more of Bryce Harper's camp not being happy with what was said. Maybe it's gotten expressed that way. Maybe John Middleton himself was like, you know what, Dave, that didn't come off great. That wasn't it.
I was going to point that out too. It could also be Middleton. Hey, stop tarnishing the guy that I paid a lot of money to. Not allowed to talk trash on him.
Correct. I think I'm good on Dombrowski and Harper. Last thing I wanted to get to, oddly enough, has nothing to do with Philadelphia sports. You asked me if it was going to be the lead to the show, and I said no, and then I thought about it. I said, well, maybe. There are so many moving parts to the NBA investigation, or it's not even the NBA's investigation because they don't look great now, into the investigation around Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups, who was a Hall of Famer, a multi-time NBA champion, an NBA champion with the Pistons, Damon Jones, who has played with LeBron James, who may have actually used some information about LeBron James' playing health, depending on what you believe and what you've read, that there was a poker corruption ring that included apparently the mafia, according to the report, and that Chauncey Billups was involved in this poker ring where he was used as a face, as somebody who would bring in unsuspecting people, would bring in fans, potentially people who enjoyed his time in the league or whatever, and they would play in these poker games that were rigged. And then Damon Jones apparently was like kind of off in this other thing where like he may have been setting up and providing knowledge that like a player was not going to play in the lineup. So get your bets in ahead of time. Maybe Damon Jones was saying, hey, I'm actually not going to play. I'm going to come out of this game early. So bet the under. We saw with Terry Rozier, that actually was more of the Terry Rozier thing, is like, was he telling people, hey, I'm going to be bailing on this game early, get your unders in. It was all wild. Like the whole thing is crazy. However, what changed since yesterday or yesterday morning is that there's this co-conspirator 8 who is also outlined in the sports betting, sports gambling issue, this other thing separate of the poker thing. And the person who is described as co-conspirator 8 sounds oddly familiar to Chauncey Billups's profile, which could then lead you into a very, very dark Pete Rose on steroids kind of level blackballing from the sport of basketball. I mean, probably prison time, you would assume. That could Chauncey Billups have been letting people who played in these poker games or let other people know, hey, we're actively going to try to lose this game. This guy's not going to be in the lineup. This guy might say he's out with an injury. There are so many issues across the board that, like, I can't even begin to give you the full depth that I think would be, like, responsible. And I fully expect that by Monday, there will be more things that are going to come out. And I saw a little bit ago that there's a thought that Kevin Garnett participated in one of the poker games at the very least. Now, it sounds like Kevin Garnett's name is being mentioned as somebody who is a victim, a fish in the situation, and not as somebody who was kind of cued in on what was happening, not being part of this thing that was apparently related to the mafia. What a wild world, right? When this all came out, it kind of seemed like a Mad Lib. Insert name of Hall of Fame player. Insert random casino or table game related or card game related game. Boop. Insert friend of LeBron James who also played with him. Boop. Like insane stuff. What was your reaction?
I was like, the fact that the FBI was getting in on, was doing this whole investigation. That's what, like, holy crap. And it was like mafia, underground poker stuff. Like, what is going on?
X-ray machines. The tables had like X-ray machines or something. And
then they had like card scramblers or something like that, so they could have
something about contact lenses that could see through the card to like a marking on the other side. I mean, this is stuff that honestly sounds like a James Bond movie, right? Like if James, what was the guy's name? Q in like the newer movies? Like it sounds like something that like James Bond's equipment guy was coming up with to like take down a Bond villain in like Malta or something. This doesn't, how, if you're Chauncey Billups or you're Terry Rozier or you're Damon Jones, how do you decide this is a good idea? Terry Rozier is set to make $26 million this year. How the hell do you get yourself involved in this? What is there to gain? Inside the NBA over on ESPN now, which has oddly enough been left alone, and like I have to imagine was making like Disney kind of cringe, and I'm sure Disney has probably gotten some feedback from the league about how it was discussed. Like you have Kenny Smith saying gambling is an addiction, and these guys clearly were making very dumb choices based on how much money they had on the line and how much they made over their careers. It's an addiction. And then you get Charles Barkley. He's like, no, these guys are just stupid. Like you can't make these choices when that much money's on the line. These guys are dumb. They're not addicted. They're dumb. I'm not going to ask you where you land, right? But like, it is kind of crazy to think about career earnings. And then like, what is the upside? 50K, 20K, 10K?
It's the usual thing that these certain athletes, they're not good with their money and they just, oh, we want to make more money. I have a chance to make more money. I could do that. And the funny thing too is, I think it was when they were talking about on ESPN in the afternoon, and they were talking about the whole thing breaking, and you have the ticker on the bottom, the advertising ESPN bet. Yeah. While they're talking about that, they take it off the thing, like mid thing. That I found very funny.
Well, it's a tricky thing to do. It is a tricky situation because all of these leagues are actively working with sportsbooks. They're licensing the likenesses, right? They're licensing the logos of the teams within the apps, like, and they are profiting. And I saw it. Was it Jaylen Brown? There was a player today who had a quote about how, when sports betting is happening, when all this stuff is happening, the league stands to profit. But the implication was that like the players don't actually profit in any of it because they can't bet on the games. Like they aren't allowed to bet and they're not allowed to bet on anything. So they're not getting the profits. They are, because all of the advertising revenue that's coming in from the sports books that is part of why the cap continues to go up. That's how this money is getting made. It's not, of course there's the TV deals, but the sponsorships and everything, like they are reaping the rewards. Let's be real.
The funny thing about this too, I think it was the day before all this broke. I think Adam Silver was on Pat McAfee's show talking about certain things with sports books and having to like adjust certain parlays or certain numbers to where people couldn't bet on those certain things. I wonder if that was something like, okay, we got to prepare for this because we know this news is coming out tomorrow at some point or something. I'm sure Adam Silver knew something was
Adam Silver might be having the roughest, toughest year of a commissioner in recent memory. You entered the regular season with the Kawhi Leonard aspiration Clippers thing from Pablo Torre floating out there for weeks, if not months. And now you have this thing where like Pablo Torre also reported on this months ago, but like you have this entire, like this poker ring, potential sports game fixing that may have included active players like Terry Rozier and may have included, if co-conspirator 8 is Chauncey Billups, an active head coach in the league. This is like at a totally different level. And I don't know how the NBA, like if this is all proven in court and if these guys are actually convicted, right? I don't know how the league gets people to believe in the integrity of the sport again. Like there are people who have believed for a while, all right, yeah, like it would be easy to fix a game. Yeah, you could absolutely fix a game. The really crazy thing is that co-conspirator 8 thing, there was some kind of language used that made it sound like tanking was discussed or like not trying to win a game. And what's the thing that we always talk about in the NBA, but especially in the NHL? You say, you can't tell players to go out and lose. They won't do it. Well, there might actually be some players who are willing to. You would typically think they're guys who aren't impactful. Then again, Terry Rozier, again, set to make $26 million. If he's telling you, hey, I'm gonna pull myself out of the game, I'm going to fake an injury, or if it's Damon Jones or whoever it is, if you have a player who's like willing to do shit like that, making $26 million a year, I think anything is open for interpretation. Anything's open for discussion. If you have a head coach that has made over $100 million between his playing days and coaching days, if that guy's willing to potentially tell people, oh, this guy's going to come out of the game, or we are active, like we're trying to lose this game, or we're not trying to win this game, that is beyond just like the betting side of things. That is just beyond trying to profit. That is like it's not like an intellectually dishonest, but it's like an ethically dishonest thing. You can't have that if you're the league. And how the hell do you restore the credibility of the league? I mean, what they'll try to do is say these were bad actors, not the league as a whole. A bad or a rogue player, a rogue coach does not indicate that this is a widespread issue. But I don't know. This feels bad, right? Really, really bad.
Yeah. It also makes you question, or is anything like this happening with the other leagues? Is anything happening with the NFL? Is anything happening with hockey? Is anything happening with baseball?
Yeah, I mean, so JH actually asked that. I'm curious when they start looking at the NHL, and they made that NHL, NFL. Here's what I could tell you. The super big sports books are able to track things at a very granular level. So if there's somebody who's engaging in like consistently weird behavior, betting on consistently weird or obscure props, they can see it. Like they can see what bet you've placed. They can figure out trends. Like they'll get you. Now, some of the smaller ones or some of the more obscure ones, like I have no idea. The offshore books, I have no idea. But like your big boys in the space, I would assume, and we'll find out more as the cases kind of unfold, I would assume that at least one of those books that lost money to very weird bets being placed over a extended period of time on very strange props to bet on, I would assume that at least one of those books might have cooperated with the investigation. It's also interesting, and I said earlier, like the NBA investigation, I said, oh, well, they actually kind of look bad. While the NBA can't compel a potential witness or a potential person who is involved in any of this to like participate in the league investigation, that is not the case with the FBI. So if the FBI comes to you and says, you got to tell us what's going on, you're compelled to give a response of some sort. You could plead the fifth, good luck, right? And in the court of public opinion, good luck. but you are compelled to give a response. The NBA doesn't necessarily get owed a response from anybody who is trying to do the investigation. But they cleared Terry Rozier. And if you remember, like a year ago or whatever, or it was last season, Terry Rozier got cleared by the league to go back and play again. Got cleared of any wrongdoing. And here you are, the first week of the NBA regular season, and the FBI says, not so fast. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild stuff. Let's see.
You do have some breaking news for the Eagles-Giants game Sunday. AJ Brown's out.
I'm sorry, what?
AJ Brown's out with a hamstring.
Oh.
AJ Brown's out. Adoree Jackson's out. Cam Jurgens is out. Ojulari's out. Brandon Graham's not going to play. Ja'Cory Bennett's not playing.
Oh, boy, here it is. All right, here we go. So here's the thing, though. The bye week, isn't the bye week next week?
Yes. Bye week's next week.
So the Eagles are taking on the Giants. Now, I get that the Giants won the last time these teams played. I understand that. I'm cognizant of it. Do you necessarily need A.J. Brown to win this game against the Giants this weekend? You shouldn't.
In theory.
Do you need Adoree Jackson? Do you need Cam Jurgens? Ideally, you would have him. That's going to be an interesting thing on the line. Brandon Graham not playing this weekend. That's not totally surprising. Give him another week of conditioning with the bye week coming up. No reason to rush him in. I don't know. I'm not none of this freaks me out, but it does make me feel a little iffy, you know? So actually, I said Ejoma was a full participant. He's not actually part of this. He's on the injury report. He's not out. Dickerson is concerning. I know it says full participant, but Dickerson being listed, I guess from a prior injury report and being upgraded or whatever, that he's a full participant in practice. I've been worried about Dickerson this whole year. It's not so much about the ankle. It's more about the back.
Yeah.
And now you have Cam Jurgens out. I guess Brett Toth will be the center again. So maybe you'll see some under center snaps again. And if that happens, perhaps we'll see play action. And perhaps if that happens, we will start to wonder once again why Kevin Petula was calling almost exclusively shotgun plays. But I digress. A.J. Brown being out stinks, but I don't think it's a backbreaking thing for this team. And I know that, Ford over here is very upset that we've not talked about the Eagles game. The reason I'm not talking about the Eagles game, it's not that I don't care, because of course I care. I care when the Eagles play. I care that the Eagles have a really nice game on Sunday. I care. But here's the problem. I don't care that much about this game because it's the Giants and it's a home game. And the Eagles had better win the damn game. But to me, the bigger stories today were recapping Edgecombe's debut, mentioning that Vladar had another really good start. Dave Dombrowski, backtracked on his comments. And the NBA story is a bigger story. We will break down the Eagles game on Monday. We absolutely will. We will talk about however the Eagles do against the Giants. And if the Eagles stink up the joint on Sunday and they somehow lose another game to the Giants, I will hold their feet to the fire. But I fully expect that even with Jurgens out and even with A.J. Brown out, I think they're going to win. And I would expect them to win pretty handily. That's it. Let's see. Greg Bondarenko says, I wonder if those players will only play half the game. The players who are listed as full participant, but are supposed to play in the game. I don't know. Is it weird that once the Sixers and the Flyers start playing, my attention is divided. And so I'm not as laser focused in on every little development with the Eagles. Is that crazy? Is that just because I like to follow all of these teams? I'm not sure.
You're probably the opposite of everybody in Philadelphia. When it's the Eagles prioritized every single time, and then the other two teams take the back burner. But I think it's realistic. But
it's a well-rounded show here at the Russ Joy Show. We don't solely focus on one team.
You talk about everything. You complain about Wawa last show.
I did.
Yeah, you did. You complained about Wawa.
Did I complain about Wawa? Who should be complaining? Philadelphia Union fans should be complaining because the Union, who won the Supporters Shield, have their first playoff game against Chicago. They play against Chicago on Sunday. Where's the outcry? Where's the outrage? Usually there's at least one person who says, hey, how about the Union this weekend? Chicago. They're home. 5:30 start on Sunday. I expect the Union to win. The end. We'll get to see. So it's what, a best of 3 in the first round of the MLS playoffs, which I don't like, but whatever. I'm my own person. I don't understand why you play a best of 3. I like the idea of just, knockout games, but I could be crazy. Now, if you're a more talented team, which the Union are, you should be able to get through that round. If the Union do anything other than make it to MLS Cup, I'll say that the season was a disappointment. Also worth noting, if you haven't been looking at the MLS table, which I know you haven't, despite some struggles or struggle adjacent things towards the end of the season, I was looking to see, I know they lost to Charlotte in the final game of the season. They still sat atop the standings. They still won the Supporters Shield, but Cincinnati and Inter Miami were only a point back. So it was a two-way tie for second, essentially, right on points. So there are talented teams in the Eastern Conference. If you're the Union, you absolutely have to dispatch of Chicago. There's no excuse.
The World Series also starts tonight.
It does. Can I give you a wild prediction?
Yes.
So I've been talking to Anthony Sanfilippo, who believes that he is a baseball oracle. Just ask him. And
I had
Bundy,
Words, so yeah.
Bundy and I were talking about this while Seattle and Toronto were playing. I think it was game 7. It might have been game 6. We're like, we really want Toronto to win because Bundy and I were both like, Toronto gives LA a tougher path to winning the World Series. We thought that Toronto's a tougher matchup for the Dodgers. I'm not saying that Toronto is going to win the World Series, but Ant threw out the idea that it might be a sweep and that if Toronto is lucky, they'll get a game and it'll go 5. And I oddly enough feel like the Jays could force a 6th game. There is a non-zero chance it could be a 7-game series. I wouldn't put my money on the Jays to win the series, but I will certainly be backing the Blue Jays. I don't care. I know this is sacrilege, but like the Joe Carter home run doesn't like live in the back of my mind as like a core memory. I was 3 years old. I don't hold it against Mitch Williams. I don't hate Joe Carter. I don't look at a championship that I can't remember or what could have been a championship that I can't remember being lost as a reason to hate a team. I can tell you that I don't like the Dodgers. I don't like the Dodgers for knocking out the Phillies. I don't like the Dodgers for circumventing not a non-existent salary cap, but deferring money in a way that is potentially going to lead to a lockout in 2 years. I can dislike the Dodgers for a whole lot more for a whole lot of things that they've done recently in recent memory and actively prevented the team that I support from advancing farther in the playoffs and ultimately winning. So yeah, I'm not going to root for the Dodgers. I don't believe in you should cheer on the team that knocked your team out because it shows how good that team. No. I don't need that. I will 100% root for the Jays. And if you're sitting out there going, well, we can't root for a team from Canada. You have to support the United States. I'm not sure that Los Angeles is really part of the United States. I'm not really sure that California is a true U.S. state. Haven't there been like petitions to secede from the rest of the U.S. coming out of California? I will not support the LA Dodgers. You can't make me. Amadeo, where do you land?
I'll root for the Blue Jays because you know what would be very funny? Both the Blue Jays and the Raptors winning a championship before the Maple Leafs.
That is correct. That is the right way to look at it.
And I also don't want the Dodgers to win because if the Dodgers win, it gives all the other teams that don't spend money a more reason to get into a lockout and complain that the Dodgers are ruining baseball.
Correct. That's a good place to end. We went all over the place here on the Russ Joy Show, but that's part of the fun. I want to thank everybody who watched live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you haven't done so already, like the video, share the video, subscribe, ring the bell to get notified whenever the show goes live. You can also find the show in the podcast form over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, when they don't block the show, Amazon Music, and Pandora, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you find all the stuff that Amadeo clips up over on short form content, over on YouTube Shorts, maybe on Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, TikTok. If you've come across that content, follow those accounts. And of course, like the video, maybe even comment on one, maybe even share it. It's good for whatever these algorithms are that I still don't understand. I'm not really sure that anybody understands, but do us a favor. Like those videos, share those videos, and subscribe. I'll be back on Monday here on the Russ Joy Show. Until then, that's been Video Guy Amadeo. I've been Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Everybody have a fantastic Friday, a wonderful weekend, and I will be back on what should be a marvelous Monday following a Union and an Eagles win on Sunday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Talk to all of you very, very soon. Bye now.